more monster news. So let's get into it. So we talked a little bit about it yesterday in regards of when we talked about, I gave my overall thoughts on the whole Ed Gein story. There is, if you have seen it or if you haven't seen it, there is a sequence where they juxtapose scenes from Psycho into the movie because Ed Gein's story was inspired by Psycho, also the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and a bunch of other movies, including Silence of the Lambs, where you do see a scene with Charlie Hunnam with some dead person's skin on his face and the wig or the hair, and then he tucks his dick between his legs, similar to Buffalo Bill in Silence of the Lambs. But in this film, they also kind of juxtaposed Anthony Perkins' closeted homosexual life within the situation of Ed Gein, which pissed off a lot of fans. And I even said when I was talking about it, I was like, I wonder how Anthony's. I don't remember how many kids that I don't know if he has just Oz Perkins or he has multiple children, but I wonder how Anthony Perkins' family actually feels about the way he was portrayed in this film. So let's get into the story. So the writer-director has been called tasteless over the depiction of the closeted homosexual actor who famously played Norman Bates in the 1960 film Psycho. The film is one of the several that has been based on Ed Gein over the years, and the others, as I mentioned, Silence of the Lambs, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Charlie Hunnam, as y'all know, plays Gein in the film that examines the horrific acts that he did, including murders, the exhuming of corpses, the using of body parts to create masks, as well as furniture and utensils. They also took a look at the lasting impact his crimes have had on the media. And then also they had to debunk something regarding them saying that he used chainsaws, which was not true. The chainsaw was an idea that Toby Hooper had when he was coming up with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and his character of Leatherface. But they decided to put that all up in there. But anyway, so Perkins, who was played by Joe Polari, is introduced early on in the series where he's cast in Psycho, but Alfred Hitchcock was played by Tom Hollander, which was partly inspired by Gein's crimes. Rumors about Perkins' sexuality followed the actor since he made his Broadway debut in 1954's Tea and Sympathy. Monster follows Perkins, who remained closeted his whole life in a secret relationship. I knew I was correct. I was like, when I was looking at that actor, I'm like, is that Tab Hunter? Apparently it was. Because I was like looking at him, I was like, why the actor that they cast as him in that scene when they was in the bed? This is when we first see them during a man on man hunchation situation. And I was like, is that Tab Hunter? They did good casting with the actors of looking alike. Because I even noticed like the scene of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre when they was doing like the whole relative, the family or whatever. I had to take a second time. I'm like, did they take footage from Toby Hooper's movie, or is this really like they did a good job with the casting of the actors? So shout out to them for that. But anyway, let's get back into the tea. So yeah, so it says that Monster follows Perkins, who remained closeted his whole life in a secret relationship with Hollywood heartthrob Tab Hunter, who came out as a homosexual in his 2005 memoir, Tab Hunter Confidential. I actually have that book, by the way. The making of a movie star in which he discussed the pair's relationship. The inclusion of Perkins in his story is an interesting addition to a series that could so easily focus purely on Geen, but it's an addition that hasn't gone down terribly well with viewers. One scene shows Perkins and Hitchcock exploring the recreation of Gein's house used for the Psycho set. While this is happening, Hitchcock monologues about urges, commenting that polite society burdens us with the fiction that these urges do not exist. He continues, quote, this transforms urges into secrets we must hide, and these secrets make us sick. Geen had a secret, a sexual function he could not express, and his inability to express this version of the sexual act turned inwards and transformed into sickness. Addressing Perkins directly, Hitchcock says, I chose you because you alone understand this sickness. You have a secret, Mr. Perkins, don't you? He adds, and the secret is making you sick. I had to cast you, Anthony. You're like him. Now, during the scene, Hunnam's Geen enters and makes a meal using a bowl made from a human skull. As Hitchcock has finished, after Hitchcock is finished, he and Perkins stare at one another. Perkins is clearly fearful of the comparison and of himself potentially turning into Geen. The series appeared to draw a disturbing line, and rightfully so, between Geen's horrendous crimes and Perkins' closeted sexuality. And after the series debuted on Friday, some took to social media to air their views. And my thing is, Ryan, you a whole faggot. This is what you letting come out here in the media and the news. Like this is what you doing. The juxtaposition of what Geen was going through and comparing homosexuality to being a sickness. Aren't you a whole gay man? This is what I can't with a lot of these Hollywood people. A lot of them, even though if they're out or not even out, that self hatred that exists in a lot of them, and the fact that y'all have the platforms to just be promoting this crap is why I think a lot of people come out and feel the way that they feel. So what the people said. Now, one person said on Twitter, Ryan Murphy is so tasteless to me, man. If you're going to do an Anthony Perkins biopic, do an Anthony Perkins biopic and give him the respect he deserves. But you compare Ed Gein to a closeted, being a closeted killer to him being a closeted gay man is homophobia. And yes, gays can be homophobic too. Self-hatred is real. Trust and believe. Similar, another viewer took issue with the connection between Geen and Perkins, adding Ryan Murphy, hell is hot. Another person described the scene as unnecessary and false. Now, on TikTok, one person called Murphy insensitive over the depiction of Perkins. However, someone else praised the episode as a masterpiece for explaining the feeling of being queer when everyone sees it as unclean or monstrous. So that could have been also the direction of what they were trying to say is that remember, in those days, people looked at homosexuality as a disease, as something that is unclean, disgusting, a disease. Like people did look at homosexuality as that back in the day. Remember, homosexuality didn't become something that was legal and not considered as a mental illness until the 70s. When Psycho came out, it was in the 60s. So it was a long time before we had to come to the conclusion that homosexuality is something that is normal and not something that is deemed a mental illness, which it was perceived as back in the day. Because if it wasn't, we wouldn't have had situations that happen where the gay rights movement, Stonewall, so on and so forth. Now, the series also showed Perkins undergoing the now debunked practice of conversion therapy by way of electroshock therapy. It's a path recommended to him by psychologist Mildred Newman, played by Mimi Kennedy, who Perkins did work with in real life. Newman was Newman was an advocate for conversion therapy, the act of trying to forcibly change someone's sexuality or gender identity. Well, was this person a homosexual themselves for you to be encouraging this foolishness? Murphy's latest season of Monster is not the first to draw a backlash from viewers. As I told y'all before, people had issues with the Jeffrey Dahmer season, Eric La Menendez, especially a lot of the gay rights groups and a lot of people who were of the LGBTQ plus community took issue with the depiction of Jeffrey Dahmer and what was happening to a lot of people at that time and a lot of the fabrications. So, and glorifying true crime. And remember, there was a big issue regarding the Menendez brothers where Ryan Murphy was called out for incestuously, or is it incestuously? I think is the word. Sexualizing their relationship, making it seem like that the Menendez brothers was fucking, and it's just like child, I need to go up in your house and start checking your computer because some of the things you be coming up with got me side eyeing you in regards of what you really be into. Do we gotta get the FBI on you like they did Austin Wolf? So Eric even called out Murphy for his depiction of himself. Murphy responded, saying the Menendez brothers should be thanking him for the interest in their case that he generated. And that sounds like something an arrogant SOB producer and someone with a lot of power in Hollywood would say, oh, you should be thanking me. Motherfucker, sit and spin. How about that? That's what you need to be doing. Going to sit up and tell me you should be thanking me. I mean, in a way, it was like, yes, it did bring attention to their case, and even to the point where people were saying that, you know what, maybe we should consider relooking and reopening the Menendez brothers case or whatever the case is. It seemed like they're not gonna get out, but at the same time, it's like it did bring interest in people wanting to re-examine their case. All the other people, Jeffrey Dahmer's dead. Ed Gein is dead, rightfully so. They both deserve to rot in hell. And Lizzie Borden, she died like 100 years ago, so she deserved to be dead. She dead too, and they about to make her thing. But the Menendez brothers, at least with them being alive and that case being 30 some odd years old, you could re-examine that case and see like if it needs to be reopened and re-examined, and were they a victim of circumstance. The one thing I'm hoping that they don't touch now, and I was kind of being like maybe they should, but I'm like, leave Luigi Mangione alone. Please do not touch that story. Because remember, there was a situation that was going around. There was a rumor that he was looking at possibly wanting to take on that case. And I'm sitting there like, leave it alone. I don't need you out here touching Luigi Mangione. We already want him to go free from various reasons because we got people interfering with his federal case and all that other stuff. And we don't need Ryan Murphy getting his little greasy ass fingers on this story. So I say all this to say, what do you guys think of this story? Did you see the Ed Gein anthology series? Did you also take issue? Because I told you when I watched it, I was definitely not feeling. I was not like. I felt a way about how Anthony Perkins was portrayed in that, and I'm just like, is he trying to equate the whole gay and serial killer? I just think maybe the execution didn't work well, but I could totally get where he was coming from and the possibility of like, yeah, in those days, people kind of looked at homosexuality as something that is evil, and when you hide that secret, the worst of you comes out. And may have been what drew Anthony Perkins to wanting to play Norman Bates. Because in so many ways, when you have a secret or whatever the case is, you take a lot of what's going on in your real life or something that may have transpired in your personal life, and you bring that to the role that you're playing. They always teach you that in acting class. So it's like you dig down into a moment that may have happened in your life or something you may have seen or witnessed, encounter, whatever the case is, and you bring that to the character that you're playing. So maybe that's what he was trying to get at that, but it just the execution of bringing that story just didn't go over well with people that were watching the movie or the series. So let me know what you guys think of this story in the comments down below.